Yeah, that's nice. But no, he's like, I bought all this stuff. I was like, dude, why'd you do that? We could have done something. You wouldn't just gone and done that. And
I told him to
I was
use
like, you're like the most
Derek
okayest
Plays with
high.
Trainers. See if it gets you a discount.
I was like,
it won't get you a discount, but I'll get you a laugh.
Or a lap dance. I don't know.
Oh, Lord.
I was like, you're gonna be really comfy. You got a lot of comfy shit. Those hoodies and flannels are no joke.
He's always wearing our hats on all his trophy photos.
Yes, he
Which
is.
so ironic.
I think it's
It's
awesome.
like the biggest bucks with the tiniest hat.
Dude, that Bucky shot had 46 inches of mass measurements,
Wow.
which is insane.
That's a heavy deer.
Scored 160.
That's wild. I had a lot of people reach out to me when I made that post about missing that deer, or well, not recovering. I should say I didn't miss it. I hit it, but lots of people reached out with all sorts of stories, very similar pictures. Actually, one guy, I was like, he got me along on the ride of his active stories. Like, this just happened to me. He got it. It was 170 inches.
Holy crap.
It's wild. I forget. I think I met him when I was working at US Cellular.
Did you see Joe Braun's mom's buck from Kansas?
That thing's
Look at-
ridiculous.
Yeah, here we go. Look at this. So the neighbor found it dead. He's like, I
Wow.
finally got to recover it. He's like, the size doesn't matter. You know, it's just an extra bonus at this point. But he's like, wow,
That's
what a thrill.
a
behind.
beauty. He looks fucking happy.
Wow.
I mean, that's such a weight off your shoulders. Makes me miss my
Yeah.
cold moment.
What the hell was that?
I don't know.
What was that noise?
Timbuktu has joined the conversation.
Right.
It's a strange sound. I'm just gonna turn that down for now. All right. Phone lines are open. We're gonna record. We're live.
Are we all ready?
Yeah, I'm just.
Oh, gosh.
I'm not sure.
Oh, gosh.
This is the Okayest Hunter podcast. Never pass on shooter bucks, because that's just meat in the freezer. It's your tag. You hunt how you want. This is Okayest Hunter.
This is the Okayest Hunter. We're coming at you from Oconomowoc. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
If you're new, hi. How you doing? If you're old, hey, thanks for coming back. This is a show about BS. I think someone commented on the YouTube series show we're more BS than hunting. I would say that's accurate. And thanks for the backhanded compliment, you dick.
It's kind of what we're looking for.
That's kind of what we're looking for.
Someone also messaged us and said, I spend a lot of time listening to hunting podcasts to learn, tactic. And it feels like I'm studying for an exam and I start to get like mentally fatigued. And he goes, then I listen to you guys and I just kind of get to kick my feet up, so to speak, and chill out. But turns out I am learning. And it's just very osmosis and very different.
We Miyagi'd you.
Yeah.
On accident. We were trying to.
Accidentally, but we did do something.
It's
Deer
another
on,
good
deer off.
That's a nice compliment. So I say that to say if you're new here, that's kind of what you can expect. And we have a lot of partners or friends of the show that have been working with us for a very long time. I think we've been with Latitude as a partner since 2019, since they were founded. And Spartan Forge, we've been with them since they were founded in 2019. We were founded in 2020, but we were a different podcast back then.
Did you guys see Bill Thompson that was on the
He was on
major
Fox.
news
Yeah.
network? Yeah, about the
Mhm.
hurricane stuff. How cool is that?
That's what
Go Bill.
what good PR does for you.
Good Bill. Go Bill.
That was pretty neat. I mean, to see him talking about how it's helping hurricane relief stuff and veteran owned and
Heck yeah.
yeah, Spartan Forge is, man, I live in that app this time of year. I'm always trying to figure something out. And the leaf on, leaf off, all the stuff you can do in there, the LiDAR, the topo lines. They just turned on the historical maps for the lower 48. I think that's the newest update. If you go into the App Store, it says now includes all of the 48
Ooh.
states. So
I'll tell you what, I've been going back and forth. I've been trying to figure out we'll talk about it later, but trying to figure out where to go gun hunting because my dad and I don't know where we're gonna hunt because all of our normal spots my dad walked. He said they look like crap, no sign anywhere.
Oh man!
So we got to figure out where to go. So this weekend I'm gonna figure out where to go. But I've been on the maps pretty hard the last week, and
burning a hole in your screen.
if you look at even just the topo, like not LiDAR's insane. I love it. It's my favorite thing. But even the contour lines, you put them on like 10 foot on Spartan Forge.
Like 5
it
foot,
looks way different than Onyx is. Onyx, it looks like a sandbox. Then you go to Spartan Forge and it looks like what it would actually look like. And then you switch it to LiDAR and you're like, holy shit.
Look
This
at that
is
crevice
cheating.
and crack I didn't see before.
This is
But,
cheating.
but someone like you know what to do with that information. I look at it, I'm just like, well, that looks cool. Looks like I'm looking at a naked, like a rat with no fur or something,
Yeah.
or a cat with no fur, like a furless cat. What do they call that? There's a skin cat. What the fuck?
Skin cat.
The
They're
Sphinx.
very ugly. The cat's it just looks like a cat with no fur,
Lumpy, bumpy.
in like a map form. I'm like, well, that's weird, but I don't know what to make of any of these wrinkles.
Look at this lumpy potato.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, again, we've been at this for a while. Rack Hub, they came on this year. So the antler behind Derek, we've talked about the R1. You got the R2s and the dropping pins background where you got 2 antlers on display. Known TJ for a long time. So, like, even though we've only been with Rack Hub for this season, we've actually known TJ for a while. So everyone we're working with, we know, like, and trust well. Muck Boots, great company.
Mhm.
I have like the slip-on boots that I've been wearing to the Deerwoods, and when I get there, I take those off and I put the knee highs on, and that's been nice.
Hey, you've been playing in the water a lot this.
Yeah, I have the
Season.
alphas, the tie-on, like the ones with the laces that are more. I don't
Probably
know.
haven't used those ones.
I haven't, but I will be
hiking
when I
boot?
go gun. Yeah, the hiking
Yeah.
boot, because I'll be in the. There's no water where I'm hunting, so I'll
No.
just kill hilly stuff. And I actually want something for my ankles. For
Now this year you'll shoot a deer and it'll find water and it'll be like, "Son of a bitch!"
yeah, there's a lot of water around there, but I don't. We'll see.
Be careful.
Yeah.
Hey, I hope I jinx myself into a nice buck. That'd be great. I've talked about lucking into a buck. I haven't talked about jinxing myself. And I'm not going to shoot a buck near water. Yeah, let's see if that happens. I'll be glad to just go swimming in my underwear again.
Sounds like great content.
Greg, you got to film it twice. Son of a bitch. Walk across again, Eric. I didn't get it. Are you? My feet are numb. They were numb the first time. Now they're in like a different category.
Yeah,
of
once you can't
numbness.
feel it, then what? You might as well
Yeah,
do it 2-3
yeah.
more times.
I'm surprised I could walk.
And your testicles crawl up your behind to keep warm.
It took a while for those to come out of my asshole.
I drove by that spot the other day, headed
Mhm.
south, and I was like, looking. Ooh,
They're in
bucks
there.
running around there.
Yeah, there's a house going up there now, but
Yeah.
So it's been an interesting season. Deer are really hard to kill. That's the name of this episode, and that is a fact. They are tough sons of bitches. The does and the bucks. I don't know what to
This
make
last
of
week
this.
has been tough for a
It's
lot
been
of folks.
emotional. This time last week, I hadn't experienced what I experienced yet because I didn't hunt until Wednesday. I got to play hooky from work on Wednesday. I went hunting, got set up really early. Like, I think we were set up by like maybe 1 o'clock or something.
Yeah, because you made a post about it, but we have not talked about it.
Yeah,
on-
no
on
one
the
knows what happened
podcast.
yet other
So
than like,
yeah,
the post.
yeah.
And then we'll get
Kind
to
of
your
forgot that.
sad
It felt like a
story.
long time ago already.
We have a similar scenario. Well, maybe not entirely.
Not
But
entirely.
yeah, when we were set up on this property, got up in the tree. Caleb, the camera guy, was right behind me in a different tree, and the general thought was that maybe there's does bedding in a certain area. The wind is to my face as I'm looking into that area, thinking, yeah, well, bucks might want to cruise this line that I'm on here. This like, I don't know what it was, like there's some sort of line of travel that went east to west, and the wind was blowing out of the north. I was looking north, and that's kind of what happened. A buck came following a doe east. He was going from west to east, which is the only way I've ever seen deer travel this property. When I think about it, every single deer I've ever seen visually in person is traveling that way. Now, trail cam's a little bit different. Maybe I've seen other things, but yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of lessons learned here about maybe how I need to be setting up in the saddle. I'm certainly going to be practicing very differently out of the saddle. I was practicing from strong side, very humdrum. I wasn't practicing I had basically another gangster shot from the year I killed that guy. I
You
had to
canting
cock
your
I had to
bow like
cant the
Fred Bear?
bow with that one. It's not something you want to do. I looked at the footage. I was drawn back for 2 minutes and 36 seconds.
For real?
Is that a long time? I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's
fairly long
a
time.
pretty long time.
Are bonita fish big?
Yeah.
Our
I
trophy
don't know.
fish.
So
yeah, I mean, they're kind of a big deal.
2 minutes and 36 seconds.
It was.
That's a
it
very
felt
long
really
time.
hard. Part of that 2 minutes 36 seconds was me bringing the bullet full draw over the bridge from weak side to strong side.
While at full draw.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
Sorry,
And then I had
just
to
touching
stop
your
and
leg.
then I had to stop and hold it there because he maybe caught movement. So then I'm just holding the bow with the arrow pointing straight up into the sky.
Did
And
you
I'm
think
like-
about releasing it just
I
for
was like,
fun?
what's gonna happen?
Arrow roulette.
He's 20 yards.
Find him.
Could be fun.
Finally got it back down. Dude, this is the stuff. Like I was like, well, maybe if I wasn't as high up in the tree, I wouldn't be competing or contending with these two branches that were right in the way. My
Mhm.
limbs of my bow were hitting the limbs of the tree. Then there's all these like lots of not breakable. I wasn't gonna get all the bust all stuff out. This is the thing about public land. You get what you get.
Yep.
And you gotta just roll with whatever you can, how you can. So you don't have manicured shooting lanes. There's just trash anyway. And like legally, you're not supposed to cut branches off
No.
on public ground. So not saying that I'm a perfect steward of that. If I'm breaking laws, I might admit I've broken a couple branches.
Oh, I break dead branches all the
Yeah,
time.
these
Yeah.
ones are fairly dead, actually. So maybe that's but there's a lot of them. And so you'll see the footage somewhere, but it's all hanging down on my left. So if those weren't there, I would have had another shot opportunity with a nice lane. Those were there. So the shot opportunity I did have was in between these two branches with my limbs right there. My tether was so tight to the tree, I couldn't back. I feel like you know, a dog's on a leash and they're
Yeah.
trying to do this and like can't. Their head's like ducking out and they're trying to back up and I was stuck to the tree and I couldn't move back more.
Would that have given you room to get
A
away
little
from
bit
those
more.
two branches
Yeah.
and clear your limbs?
And I couldn't do anything about it because I'm at full draw.
Yeah, you need
I'm not gonna let
you need
off
to grow a third arm.
and then undo my release and then with my tether and then do all that. Like, no way. This is it. Like, this
It's a lot
is-
of movement.
in my mind. This is the buck stop right. The last moment I'm gonna have a shot. If he goes further, there's no more shot at this point. I would have had a shot earlier on, and it would have been a really beautiful shot setup, but I was using the tree as concealment, as I think you're supposed to some degree with the saddle, except he came into my weak side, so I couldn't I couldn't angle my bow around. The tree was in the way of how I needed to get through. So anyway, I let it rip when I finally found my anchor point, and it took me a little bit to find my anchor point with all of this stuff going on. And there was like a spot that I seared through all of these twigs, and I could just see this tunnel of brown right where I believed I needed to be. And so that's where I'm questionable about like the shot when it hit. Because when it stuck in, I buried the arrow in him. I'm surprised it didn't pass through. And I was 25, maybe 30 feet up from like where my arrow was going from was probably 30 feet up. If I'm 6 feet off or 5 feet off from my platform. So angling down pretty good, I think, right? And he ran, I heard crashing, and then I heard nothing after that. And it was very quiet out. And I was shocked that I heard literally nothing. And if you listen back to the footage on the GoPro, you hear like, yeah, nothing after that. So I was like, man, maybe he went down, but it looked like it was a far back shot, maybe a little high. And replayed whatever of the video we could to try to like piece it together.
And Caleb's in a different tree
In a different
behind
tree.
you, so it's kind of
When I
hard to
watched
see.
his view, I'm like, your view compared to what I saw, like he was wondering why I didn't shoot it right away. And I was like, looks like I could have, I couldn't have. Looks like I could have done this, I couldn't have. Like he could see very little of what I could see. In fact, you barely see the deer in frame at all.
His
Like,
perspective was way different
super
than yours.
different. Yeah. I mean, it's wild how one tree difference can totally change. It's like those movies of every different person sees something different.
Even 2 feet of difference.
Yeah.
I mean,
that-
and that's where
When you're
the
looking for a peak
tether,
site, you
that's
know?
where your tether, I mean, plays a huge role. If you have, you know, an extra 8 inches that you can swing out, or an extra 8
it
inches
would
that
have
you
made a
can
difference.
get
I could have
back,
got him.
that
Yeah.
little bit. But you don't know that beforehand. You
No,
don't
no.
know.
So, I
when
mean,
you're setting
a
up, so
tight
you're just
tether is not
doing the best you
something
can.
I would recommend if you're waiting to kill a deer. You want a lot of motion, and maybe that's something that I should have known I didn't know yet. Now I know, and I've learned the hard way. That said, though, too, if I wasn't using the tree for concealment, he probably would have got me. Like he was trying to figure me out, the buck. So if I would have been sticking out on the side, there's a good chance he would have busted me, and I wouldn't have even been able to have him. The cool part about it, though, if I was already at full draw. So I could have shot him in that figuring out moment. Like there's enough time to put a shot on him, I think. Because I knew when he was going to pop out where he was going to pop out. Based on he was in a licking branch. He wasn't like chasing the doe hard. He wasn't in full seek. I saw the doe come through. I was like, ooh, a doe. And I was like, ooh, I think there's another deer. I'm pretty sure. I'm like, Caleb, it's buck. You know, I'm like, and then he comes in a little bit further. I'm like, I'm going to shoot that buck. And so when he finally popped out where he did, I was like, it's on, you know, and whatever. So
Just out of curiosity, how far away was he staying to that doe? How close? Was he letting her get out a little
she
bit?
was out a little bit. Yeah. So I don't know what behavior that indicates, but she was on a loose leash. For
Gotcha.
sure. He was not like
She wasn't an estrus, or He might have bred her already. One of the
Yeah,
two.
he was just dawdling. Like he was interested in what she was doing. He was following her, but he was not like
It
cruising.
wasn't like that.
No.
Trotting nose up the
There was no
rear.
grunting, none of that. And so when I shot him, when I called you guys mostly right away, I climbed down first and got my composure and shit. But I didn't have any blood at all, and I think it's due to the high hit. And the arrow didn't exit. I saw him run off with the Luminok glowing buried into him. There's nothing else sticking out. So I thought, well, maybe the arrow will pass through at some point. And I got really frustrated really, really fast. And I got myself incredibly worked up and in a pretty pissy mood. And I told Kev, I'm sorry you got to be around me when I'm like this. This is not how I normally am. But I was pretty frustrated. And I was, no offense, I even felt frustrated with you guys.
Yeah.
Even though you came out to help. Like, I was just like, blood? What? There's no blood. We'll look for this, look for that. I'm like, this is all canary grass. There's no way to track anything in here. There's nothing fucking broken. There's no way to look at the dirt. Like I could see his big imprint once, and then after that, it was like anybody's guess because he tore off a certain way, and then it got really dark. So perspectives were starting to get really confusing. I had no frame of reference any longer. I was trying to watch a video to look at where I was looking once he was shot because I knew I could hear where he was going. And in hindsight, now that I understand how all the pieces fell together, I now know what did happen. And it made sense as why I was looking that way and what all transpired. But it was dismal, man. I was like, my thought was he's either dead somewhere right here and I haven't found him yet.
Where you heard the crash?
Yep. Or he is gone. And what I thought was a crash wasn't a crash. It was him just busting through some shit at full on pace. And then he hit quiet, softer ground and was out of there. So we called in as you were driving down. I called the drone recovery company, Trophy Deer Drone Recovery. He's local to my area, was familiar with the property, knew who we were. It was kind of funny.
Wyatt, shout out to
Yep,
Wyatt. Great dude.
And he's like, I'll be there in 30 minutes. He was there in like an hour, which is okay. And then I called you. I'm like, should I be doing this? Because I thought maybe you're gonna come and like bloodhound this thing and be like, no, we'll get it. Don't do that. It was very affordable. I heard some of these drone guys are $600-$700, and I was like, I can't justify that price. It was like $350, and that felt like, okay, I'm in this in such a way that I want that help, and that's a price I can justify for what's happening.
Well, with the lack of sign,
there's no way I was going to find them.
no. And when you said, I'm looking up the canary grass, I'm not finding blood. We've been walking around here already. I'm like, that's a really high hit with no pass through and
nothing to leak out.
Nothing to leak out. And if it's kind of far back, you might have tucked it right in between the gut and the liver. The chances, and if you didn't hit lung, you don't have anything pushing anything out.
Mm-hmm.
With inhale, exhale, you'll have a little bit of goo, but I mean, it's getting soaked up in the fur, and it might be little tiny droplets somewhere where you're not seeing it. And if you guys were already walking through there, you could have walked and kicked it over already.
Yeah.
So it makes it difficult. The drone guy was probably the right call in that situation, because I don't know if we would have necessarily been able to bird dog anything unless you had a really good point of reference. We've had that happen before with that doe that I shot in the swamp you were there with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I knew where it last was, and luckily I know that property well enough where I know what things look like when I'm down on the ground versus up in the air.
That's really, really hard once the sun goes down. Those of you who have been in that position, when it's light out, you can still look back up at your tree and kind of get your frame of reference. But as soon as it's dark,
it
changes.
Is
very, very difficult to tell.
Literally
exactly
night
where.
and day, right? Literally.
And you're already frazzled, right? You're already like you said, like, I don't know anyone that doesn't happen to, where you just get wired and the uncertainty creeps in and it just starts to affect your thinking, your judgment. Everything you do is now like heightened. And I think that's where I've watched some of the drone videos before. Our buddy Dave has used Wyatt and his drone, found the deer. After seeing what he did with your deer, that $350 is buying you peace of mind. Like, we know for a fact now what happened.
Yeah.
And we know that, like, we're not missing it.
No.
Yeah.
Like, that thought of leaving your deer out there or not finding it, $350 is well damn worth it, because if it's there, they're going to find it.
Yep.
They will find it 100%.
100% he's like, I'll find it in a couple seconds in most cases. And the thing that was really, so there's actually really kind of a wild story here. That starts
This part's really
This is
interesting.
where things start to take a turn to Albuquerque, because as Bugs Bunny would say, there's a dead deer about 250 yards north of where I was hunting. This deer came out of the west. I mean, maybe he came somewhere out of the northwest. I don't know, but he came, as far as I'm concerned, west of me. And so you're like, that's your deer. There's no way there's another dead deer on this property that's 200 yards from
It was
that
a
isn't
buck.
your deer, and it was a buck. It was in some incredibly thick cover, so the drone was having a hard time fully picking up, but it didn't look right. Something looked off, like there's fur where fur maybe wouldn't normally be. The antlers, to me, did not look like the antlers of the buck I shot, and it was actually comical because Wyatt was like, usually people say the opposite. I was like, that looks bigger than my buck. He's like, well, that's funny. People usually say the opposite of that.
Mine was
I
way
was like, well,
bigger.
that'd be the second time that's happened to me. So then we had seen a deer right out the gate, and what had happened is Wyatt was looking at his mind was trying to fly the drone to a slightly different area because he had, our fault, misinterpreted where he should have been looking. Not his fault, our fault, because we're idiots and I didn't explain correctly. So in his mind, the first deer that he hit was not part of where he should have been looking in his mind.
Yep.
The first deer we hit was a buck, and it was moving fast. And that was the first buck we had seen. So we just thought maybe he's just dogging a doe, or he's just out there rutting around. Like we didn't think much of it.
We really didn't look at it for more than a couple seconds, and we're like,
And then
oh,
we hit it again,
buck,
and that
you
was
know,
it.
and took off, and then he started flying the drone back. We kind of like course corrected him. Actually, I think it was off this way, and then Eric pointed on the map. Oh,
It's like,
look.
oh,
So
shit,
then we
okay.
just kind of like, oh, cool sighting, and just moved on
Yeah.
from that. Didn't think twice about it.
So then, as we looked at, I mean, how many deer do you think we saw? Like,
Looked at a lot. Of
it was
deer.
like, was it like 30 deer?
I'd say 30 to 40,
It was a lot of deer,
and they weren't
the
all
area
in
kept
one
getting
pile. I
bigger
mean,
and bigger.
we
Like,
looked the whole,
yeah.
like across the property. We were looking all over the place.
we really, because we weren't finding anything. So then the dead deer started to make more sense. You're like, no, that's got to be it, right? It's got to be it. Well, every buck we hit didn't give a shit about the drone.
Nope.
They were looking at it. They didn't recognize it, didn't care. Even big bucks in fields, little bucks in the cat, like it didn't matter. They were not having any reaction to the drone at all. No deer were actually, but the does were just laying and they're doing whatever they're doing. No one cared. But the first deer that got hit by the drone ran like a bat out of hell.
It reacted to the drone.
Yeah.
It was still. He hit the light to turn it on,
It
and
was
that deer started moving. And that deer was in thick cover. So all of a sudden, I don't know if you brought that up, the first deer, or Tyler or Wyatt, but as soon as we thought about it, we're like, well, shit, that deer kind of took off. And it wasn't that far from where you had shot. So I think Wyatt, like the drones are like, it records every time he flips on and does,
Yeah.
it records everything, but he can just cycle back through just like your photos and look at each event. And then we started watching that event, and
So then we couldn't find that buck again. When we realized we wanted to find that buck, we thought maybe that was a buck. And then that buck was not. I don't know. We couldn't get him again. So he must have left the general vicinity
Yeah.
of where we were. And so then I got really psychopath that night and the next day. And I had been recording him doing the drone, which I thought was pretty cool. I've never experienced that before. It's really something. And maybe I would have gotten a dog if that didn't exist. Something would happen. I would have had to do something. But I saw on the map where he hit the first buck, and I was like, okay, that's just east of where I was hunting. It's in another spot that I had been hunting. I know exactly where that is now. And I understand why that buck would have gone there. We talked about bucks that could hit or go right to cover of water. And he went right to some thick cover where all the other bucks I've seen on the property have come out of that cover as like probably bedding area. And so then I was like, okay. And then he ran off whatever way, and he got to probably not far from where the dead deer was.
Mhm.
So then I'm thinking, well, shit, Derek wasn't wrong at all. Like, of course, a deer could go 200 yards, shot and die. Like, my initial thought was like, he shouldn't be over there, but that's all moot. Like, I'm an idiot. Don't listen to me. But then Tubbs was like, hey, there was a deer reported in Waukesha County dead on the Wisconsin Rut report. I was like, well, Waukesha County is pretty big. But let's try it. So I messaged the guy and I said, hey, was it in this city? Yes. Okay. What do you need to, how does this work? Like, do I give you the coordinates? You give me like, what are we doing here? I gave him the coordinates from the drone guy, which he gave them to me, because we were going to go back and check on that dead buck. to get boots on the ground and just go check. I just couldn't do it that night. Maybe I could have. It just didn't. I was in a bad mentality.
Mhm.
And then I just wanted to wait till it was daytime so I could just figure shit out better. And this dude's like, so this dude didn't shoot that deer. He found that deer and he posted to the rut report in effort to try to help someone claim it. And he's like, is it your deer? I said, no, it's not my deer, but we thought it could have been. This confirms that it isn't because he found it a couple days before I shot mine.
Yeah, and
Like
he had
6 days before you shot yours.
and he had a
yeah, something like
photo
that.
of
Yeah.
the rack, and it definitely
Yeah.
was not
Yeah.
of similar-ish size.
Yeah, very similar age class buck, probably same age,
Yep.
just different genetics or whatever, but not my deer. And it was throwing off heat signal. That was the other part that was throwing us off. And I
It
think
threw off
maybe it
The
was,
same heat as every living deer we looked at.
yeah, that's the part that we're like, well, why?
Which
is it
in
throwing
my
off heat?
brain, I was like, how? It's a heat signature that looks the same as every deer. It's 250 yards from where you shot. We have to go look. Like
Yeah.
in my
Well,
brain, it was
And to be
like,
fair though,
you-
because of whitetail coats, that hair is hollow, right? It holds heat for a long time. I mean, that deer's been hit by sunshine a few
I
times.
thought it was like more of a gastro thing.
mm,
And it might be that also is part of it too. You never know.
Yeah.
But it can hold heat from just the gastro thing. The enzymes breaking it down from the inside. It's making its own heat from basically rotting away on its own. It's but it also, that fur helps hold that heat in. That coat is very insulated, so it's very possible. But
But it was
either way,
the sheer confusion of the situation. It was like, what the hell is going on out here?
It was
like,
wild.
God, I was like, that just doesn't seem like that's my buck, and we can't find the one that I think is mine. So like, we're left to assume that that's it. And then when like it dawned on us that the first one could have been it, then I'm like, I'm 99% positive that's exactly what it was. It was the first one. It went this way. That makes sense with the path of where I was watching it go. Blah blah blah, and the quiet nature of that. Once it busted through that thick stuff, it was all quiet from there.
Yep.
So I wouldn't have heard much. Maybe he slowed down, took his time back there. I don't know, but nonetheless, it was pretty heartbreaking. I guess I haven't experienced. I experienced that with the doe a little bit from a couple years ago, but not in the same way. Like I thought she was fucking dead. Like, I was hunting on the ground. I threw an arrow right through her, full pass through. We could track blood all the way. We tracked and tracked and tracked. I'm pretty sure that deer fucking died somewhere. I don't know. Who knows, right? But nonetheless, I was trying to hunt while I was supposed to be working so I could be home that night because my wife had lots of schoolwork to do. And I hadn't done bedtime one night that week. Starting Sunday, I was on a podcast with the Bowhunter Chronicles. Monday, I helped you drag your deer out.
Mhm,
Tuesday
thank
was
you.
podcast. Wednesday, I'm at it again. I wasn't supposed to be. The whole idea was I
We
was
were
gonna
out
hunt during the
late.
day. And I get back home to like 11 or 12, somewhere in there. And I was like, I set the canoe out and put the canoe in the car, all this shit. And then I was just feeling like pretty bad all around. And then Wednesday, the kettle boiled over and it wasn't great. So everyone's like, you got to get back on the horse. I'm like, I'm not going to. I think I could get back on the horse, but I do not have the room in my life right now to do that. So I'm just looking forward to putting this whitetail country through as many deer as I can.
Let's eliminate the need for drones and just paint the woods red.
just knock them down.
I really am, guys. I'm going to stack them. If I see them this year, I will kill them.
Game over.
And it's death to deer.
He's got bloodlust in his eyes.
Yes, he
Yeah.
does.
Look at him. I love it.
Ready to go.
He's got a little drool on his chin. He's a little hungry.
You need a little barbecue sauce on your chin,
Yeah.
just like Jacob just said here.
Yes,
I took the advice and fried chicken on my way to the woods yesterday. I ended up
Saw
seeing
a nice
bunch
buck.
of that
got some big chicken
Hell
energy.
Yeah. Look at that. Big chicken energy, Jake. That's awesome. He's a friend.
It's a
of-
real thing.
Yeah, he's a friend of
Yep.
Sam's. Sam, who does all our audio stuff.
Okay,
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
nice.
He's
Cool.
getting into hunting more and more.
Well, tell your friends, Jacob. Big chicken energy. It's a real thing.
That's the thing.
But does it have to be like from a big chicken, or is big just relative to? The
No,
amount of chicken
it's
you're eating?
just the amount of energy. It's the quantity of
It's
energy.
The quantity
from
of
the chicken.
energy
Got
from
it.
the
It's not a
chicken.
measurement of the chicken.
Got it.
No.
It's a communist conception.
But
Oh,
then
man.
I mean, so like luckily Derek got a great buck, and you
Yeah.
had a nice track job, and that all worked out. You don't have to knock on wood. Already fucking happened. But hello,
I
come in.
guess.
Come on in.
McFly.
Yeah, I got one. Yep.
McFry.
But you, sir, have had lots of encounters. You've been on a bunch, and you finally got to send an arrow down the field at a deer. And
Yeah, and that was
now you got a fucking story.
well. I mean,
It's not as convoluted as mine.
it could be, but we're not going to make it convoluted at all.
Sorry.
It was a good morning Saturday, to say the least. Right? It's a lot of movement. Saw a buck right away in the morning, way out, and it kind of worked its way towards us, and then it just kind of did its own thing and went off. And then all of a sudden, just as it's turning light, we could hear crunching and crashing around in the cattails and grunting behind us, as we heard the day before.
Mhm.
So it's been pretty hot with a lot of activity just out of reach.
I mean, the rut is rut.
Yeah,
you know,
rut
like,
is rut.
It
But
is rut.
when you hunt a cattail marsh and the cattails are 10 feet tall at their lowest point,
You get to hear a lot of
you
running.
get to hear a lot of rutting, but you don't see it. And all you see is just cattails blowing up and things moving around. We heard a
which
buck.
gets you really fired up.
It
In your
does.
mind, there's
It
150s
does.
everywhere.
Right. But I don't know, man. Like, what I should do is rewind and say Friday, just the recap of Friday morning's activity was it was all in the cattails. And aside from some other deer we saw off in the distance, but like clockwork, just as it's cracking daylight, we got in quiet. And all of a sudden here, a really small, you could tell it was a smaller deer grunt coming from the north.
Meh.
Yeah, literally. And, tracking around, crashing around. You could tell he was, snooping around looking for a doe. Might have been following a doe because I could hear more movement ahead of him. And he just kind of did his thing. And then, I don't know, it got quiet. He decided to lay down and take a nap for 20 minutes. Well, now it's definitely past legal shooting light. It's ready to go. And all of a sudden we hear that little grunt and we hear crashing around again. And this time it's moving further south. And it gets to a point out in the cattails where we can see cattails moving about 100 yards out. And all of a sudden we hear a snort wheeze.
Ooh.
And then a deeper grunt. And then all of a sudden you hear some crashing around. You hear another snort wheeze. And I'm like, this is the first time I've heard a snort wheeze.
I've never heard one ever.
This was wild.
I heard
like-
one when we were getting your deer.
Oh, when they were fighting across the street?
Yeah. My dad got a good one on Saturday. We'll talk about
Yeah.
that too. Maybe he'll call in.
So those deer, in the cattails, the little buck wanted in on what the big buck had going on. The big buck was having nothing to do with it. And you could, when they ran around, you could actually hear things hitting off of antlers. So it's like, okay, come on, be nice if that doe would bring them. She just kept bringing them further out into the sea of cattails. And all you'd see is this big, circular figure eight of cattails moving around and grunting and, then a stopping and a snort wheeze again. And then all of a sudden, finally, after like the fifth or sixth snort wheeze, that little buck decided to come kind of towards us. I could see cattails moving, but then he went straight south. He wasn't coming over to say hello, unfortunately. So it was like, well, that was pretty exciting. 9 o'clock rolls by. I'm like, we're out, and nothing else is moving. Got a small buck on the cell camera that's on the south end of that property, and that was about it. So bounced out of there, came back the following morning, set up in that same tree, and it was like magic. Like, we got in there quiet, in the dark, got set up, got settled in, hear the same sounds again, hear the little buck grunting and walking around, working its way through the cattails, and it got quiet. And then look at the watch. Yep, it's legal right now. 6:10 or whatever it was. And hear crunching and crashing around in the cattails, and I'm like, that sounds more like a raccoon farting around than it does a deer. Honestly, it did. So Caleb's watching it, and it's just that right amount of light where you can kind of see something, but then you don't see anything. You know, it's just hiding in the shadows.
You get that
Like
gray
gray light.
light,
Yeah,
and
gray
those
light.
gray deer tend to
Yep.
blend right
And that's
in.
exactly what was going on. So I couldn't pick him off. But meanwhile, there's 2 more deer coming across the field to come jump in the cattails. So it was the 8-pointer that I passed the other day. And then it was a bigger buck. Well, that 8-pointer kind of went off.
Were they together?
They were apart. So the bigger buck made his way and the 8-pointer kind of hung up further out. And then I couldn't tell how big. I saw the frame and I saw the neck and the shoulders. I'm like, shooter. If that one comes in close enough,
He's going to die.
yeah, he's gonna get an arrow shot at him.
Time to die, buddy.
Meanwhile, that fork and horn was fiddle farting around. I'm like, that little sucker is gonna catch our scent because he walked right over the trail that we walked in on. And what makes it even better is I came in the dark with no headlamp, and I'm going first trail, second trail, third trail. When the hell was there a third trail in here? That one looks more worn. I think that's the one we walked in on because 2 of those trails are booby trapped. Like there's blowdowns in there. There's sticks. You're going to be making all sorts of freaking noise walking in there. And there's one that is nice and smooth. And I know where the one little booby trap is that we can just step over and we'll be fine. Of course, I chose the wrong one. I found one booby trap and I'm like, go around that way. Which one? That one over there. Okay. Just wait. Got out of the booby trap, walked around, came down the little path. I'm like, oh yeah. You can tell we were walking in here once already. It looks like a herd of elephants ran through here. It's all pounded down.
It's like playing Candyland. You
Oh,
get
yeah.
to take the mountain pass the easy way instead of
Yes.
going through
Exactly.
molasses pit,
Molasses
gun drop,
pit. Yep.
bullshittery.
Right.
Sorry,
So
that's all I'm picturing in my mind.
oh, it's exactly what it is. So we we left enough scent there for that little buck to certainly pick us up. He bird dogged it and he looked up at us and I'm like, still, don't move. Caleb was just still as a statue, like a frozen little raccoon on the side of the tree. And he's just watching and trying to get him on the camera. I don't know how much he got on the camera. And meanwhile, that bigger buck is coming over and I'm looking, I'm like, yeah, that's definitely shooter. But he's 45 yards out and he's just kind of paralleling the edge of the cattails on the tractor path. And he kind of hits the clear and the little buck pops out. He finally makes his way and he walked right over the same spot we did. And they went like almost nose to nose. And I'm like, got my rangefinder and I ranged the bigger one. It's at 35. Ranged again, 17. I'm like, I got to be hitting something in front of them. There's cattails and crap in the way. There's willow branches in front. I finally pick another spot and I range him again. And then he must have saw me move just a little bit. So he's on alert. Shit.
Was that little buck settled down by then? Or was
Oh, yeah.
he
Little
still-
buck didn't even care.
Didn't even care.
No, didn't care. So ranged him. Okay, 35 yards. That's about right because I've ranged that part of the path before, in the daylight when it's like 100% daylight. 35 yards. I'm pretty confident in that shot, provided my arrow gets there. So, but I'm looking, I'm like, my sight's set at 20. I know it's set at 20. It might even be set at 15 because I was messing around with it. I'm like, my old crappy eyesight. I'm looking at him going, I can't freaking see it. So I had to kind of slowly bring the bow up so I could see it. Oh yeah, I got to adjust it. And then his ear kind of twitched and then he kind of moved his head like he saw my hand move. And I'm like, shit. I adjust it to 35, lock it in. And just as I clip my release on, he blows and bounds back.
Shit.
Yeah. And the little buck's like, what? What's the matter? And he just, we had the wind perfect. The wind was blowing out of the east. And that's what our saving grace was. If I would not have been moving around, it might have been a different story. Maybe. Probably not, knowing what we know now. But at any rate.
Yeah, that could have been heartbreaking.
Oh, it
If
would have been
you'd
ugly.
have had your sight dialed before you got there and you had it at 35.
Yeah, it would have been not great. But the buck bounded off, but he hung up. He hung up at about 60 yards and just was out there and he put his head down. He fed a little bit and the little buck fed. And he was just like, yeah, I'm not gonna walk over here. And he decided to go back north. Little buck went out by that 6-pointer or whatever, and they were butting heads. And
That's cool.
Caleb got video of him. Well, then all of a sudden, here comes a couple more deer. Here comes a doe and that 8-pointer, the smaller 8-pointer that I passed on earlier. They wander in, and then wouldn't you know it, the doe crosses the ditch through the cattails. She's up on the berm, and she's right in front of us. And she's looking at us, and she's licking her nose, and she's sniffing the air. And meanwhile, Caleb's just like, what do I do? I'm like, just don't move. Because we're totally getting radared right now.
Because there's nothing behind you guys.
Oh, there is
right?
nothing.
Like your
nothing but
skyline.
clear blue sky. I'm hiding behind and the trunk is as wide as my shoulders. And he is off to the side of the one trunk, and he's just clung tight to the tree, holding the camera, trying to video everything, and try not to flash the light or any, get any. Sun was coming up and hitting his lens. I know it was hitting my glasses. You could see my white fingers and all that fun stuff. So he's just trying to be still. And that doe is doing everything she can to try and figure us out what we are. And meanwhile, the one little buck and then that 8-pointer are like real close. And the 8-pointer probably made it to like 28 yards. And Caleb's like, you gonna shoot him? I'm like, no, I'm not shooting him. Really? No, I'm not shooting him. I said, that doe's gonna die.
He wanted to film a kill so
I know he did.
bad.
I know he did. But that doe, 12 yards away.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, my pin is set to 35, so I roll it down to 20. Should be okay at 20. I can make that shot, no problem. I just aim just low enough, and it'll be fine. That doe went from this side of the tree on my strong side, like right where I had my bow held. I'm clipped on. Went to the weak side. I was able to kind of nestle in and calm down a little bit. I could see her hind end, just a hind quarter and a tail. And then she was sniffing around like right below us. And meanwhile, Caleb's going, oh, look at the little bucks fighting down there. I'm like, no, look at that stupid doe. She's right underneath us. And any minute she's going to blow. She's going to let us all, she's going to tell everybody that we're here.
She's going to sing it from
And
the
meanwhile,
mountaintops.
yeah. And meanwhile, that 8-pointer is just going, yeah, this isn't so bad. There's some grass over here I can eat. And the little one's over there munching on wheat. And, the big one's way off in the middle of the field going, I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Watch these idiots. Watch what's going to happen to these idiots.
Look at these morons over here. So the doe spins around right on top of the trail where we were walking. And I'm like, any minute now, it's going to happen. We're going to have fireworks. Yeah. So she all of a sudden steps out, and I was just about, was going to raise my bow, and I thought, nope, she's looking straight at us. And I'm staring at her between my limbs of my bow, right through the cables, right through the limbs. And I'm staring at her. And I'm like, all you need to do is turn. And miraculously, she just started to turn. She turned a little bit, and I pulled my bow up, was going to draw, and all of a sudden she whipped her head right back and looked right at us. I'm like, shit. And I could tell Caleb's like getting nervous. He's like, oh, fuck, what are you going to do? I'm like, just wait. I'm going to wait for her to turn. And she took a step, and I could still see I was getting side-eyed. And she turned and looked because one of the little buck out in the field was starting to move. And so she like, all right, now came full draw. And then she turned and looked back again. And I'm waiting for her to take another step.
Is she broadside right now? Or
She's
not
broadside, kind of quartering away. And then I'm like, all right, I got her all lined up. I was looking at the crease of the shoulder, brought it down, touched off, and like not the reaction I was hoping for out of the arrow. I could see it was veering. It veered to the right and a little high, and it, heard a good impact. She blew as it impacted and ripped off, went down the berm.
Do you think she dropped it all or not really?
She might have dropped a touch, but I don't think it was enough.
She didn't drop.
No, she really didn't drop a whole lot. The bow was just quick enough. I watched the arrow go flipping out about 40 yards away. It flipped right out of her. I could see the lighted knock, and you could see it was all painted red. I'm like, okay, that's kind of odd that it didn't go ripping through right away because it's heavy enough and it should be doing what it's doing. or should be doing what I need it to do.
Should
Two
be doing,
blade.
Should be doing what it's doing. Yeah.
It's definitely doing what it's doing. That's the 2-blade fixed
That's a 2-blade fixed.
No bleeder or bleeder.
No bleeder on that one.
double bevel,
Uh-uh.
single bevel.
That's a
Double.
single. That's a single
Single.
bevel. Yeah. So it'll corkscrew right through. So you're going to lose a little momentum as it's twisting through. It was good and sharp. I mean, you could shave hair with it.
You did.
Oh yeah, I shaved a bunch. But I watched that arrow go flipping out, and she ran and went and ducked underneath a willow. I thought, man, she can't be too far away if I hit the goods. But I didn't feel right about that. Like, I mean, it could have been angled in and going down because we're up pretty high. You know, we're up 20 some feet. And I'm like, let's just give her an hour. Let's continue to watch all the stuff going on. And it got quiet and no more deer activity. And I'm like, I'm second guessing my shot here a little bit because that deer should have crashed and been done if I would have hit the goods. So let's get down. All right, so we get down and Caleb's like, oh, let's look at the footage. I'm like, I don't like the way that looks. It's too high. It's too high, and if it didn't go angled down more, which it did not angle down more, it wasn't a steep enough angle to go driving down into the goods. It went over the top of the goods.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like right below the spine, edge of the back straps, and just above the lungs and liver. But let's go look. So look, and yep, there's blood all the way down the berm where she ducked, where she moved, where the arrow came out. There was blood everywhere. The arrow, whole back half of it was painted red. The front was all waxy fat. Like, pretty sure I know where I hit, and it's not where I wanted to hit. That's all that saddle of fat from right around the back straps. That's usually a pretty good thick patch of fat there. But we're gonna do our due diligence and we're gonna keep walking. Well, blood got better, got really, really good. And then it's like, okay, she's either gonna go straight onto the neighbor's property, because that's what it's looking like right now, or she's gonna turn hard left. She turned hard left, blood all over the cattails. We're going into a cattail marsh to track a deer. And there's about knee-high in water, and I don't have knee-high boots on. So we're just going to buckle up and go for a ride here. We're going for it. So I track about 100 yards in, and I can find blood all over the cattails. And I'm like, I'll bet she's bedded in here somewhere, because there is a couple little patches of willows in here, and she could find a little high spot to bed up on. Well, blood was starting to get a little sparse, so I just kind of knelt down, got real low to the water where I could see underneath the cattails, and okay, there's blood right there. And just as I took another step, like 5 steps away there, she was bedded. Boom, jumped up and took off like a freight train. And I could hear her crashing for about 100 yards. She was boogieing hard. So I inspected the bed, and there wasn't a lot of blood in there. All right, she's clotting up already. I'm still going to follow this out. We're going to go as far as we can go. Literally came right back from to right behind the tree, about 100 yards, 150 yards into the cattails, but right behind the tree where I shot her from. And as we got closer that way, it was just less and less blood. And it was smeared on the cattails. It was getting real watery. I'm like, this deer's plenty alive. It was not a lethal hit.
Shit.
It's a bummer. We'll be chasing this deer around the marsh all day, because the deer's got the energy to do it.
Sorry, dude.
That's the way
Deer
it is.
are hard to kill.
Deer are hard to kill.
They are.
They even die hard. Like
They
it's
have
not that they're hard to kill. They're also like
what
hard
people.
to shoot, hard to kill. Hard. They die hard. Like
Yeah.
Turns out they want to live.
Yeah, they have a very strong
dad's-
will to live.
good thing you should come to
Whitetails do.
camp. I mean, really, because my dad's about giving you some shit on the screen here.
That's fine. I can't make it to camp.
Greg doesn't need a cameraman. He sees everything. You and blades of grass and his memory.
In my brain movies.
Yeah. So if you've ever pulled the trigger and missed your mark and had a deer hard to kill moment, we feel for you. We've all been there.
Uh-huh.
My mom, shout out to my mom, and
Yeah, Jesus.
she hit a nice one last night, probably the biggest buck we've
That was
had
a
on
dandy.
the family property in probably 4 years. and she really wanted that one, and she hunted pretty hard for it. He came in last night grunting, chasing a doe, and it was a kind of similar thing where it was like he was about to chase the doe out of the field. She'd already left, and he was about to duck into the woods, and she grunt stopped him, couldn't get him in her crossbow sight. He was moving. She grunt stopped him again. Here's a little bit of panic. She shot. She thought it was good. Ended up hitting a little higher than she wanted,
Wow.
and they tracked it today. Looked everywhere, couldn't find it. So she's feeling down in the dumps. So shout out to Mom and anybody else who's had that experience. My buddy Jerome, similar experience he just had. Seems to be going around, like Tony said.
Yeah, Tony said it seems to be going around. I've heard others. I had a lot of people share their stories with me when I shared mine.
Sadly, it's
you know,
common.
it's just a thing. Josh Consigliere. Sorry, Josh, I can't say your last name.
Opinion on hunting the rain, going out tomorrow. If you got the gear and you can hang it in there, I've killed plenty of deer in rain.
And if you know if it's going to
It's the rut,
stop,
they're
during
gonna
the
move,
daylight,
yeah.
then once it stops, it's game on. Done,
Yeah,
like,
but it's good to be in there
But
under
the
the cover of the
blood
rain.
trailing is not.
Couple of
ideal.
things
No.
to remember.
Yep.
Yep. What we're just talking about is if you have one of those screw-in umbrellas for tree stand hunting, those make a huge difference.
Sure.
But Josh, if you're going to go out in the rain, anytime you shoot a deer, you need to pay attention to where you hit, the deer's reaction, and where it goes. But when it's raining, you really need to pay attention to the last place you saw it and what that deer was doing, its behavior. Was the tail tucked? Was it up? What was it doing? Because if that rain washes blood, makes it real interesting, real fast.
Might as well just
Yep.
get the drone guy on speed dial at that point.
Yeah.
And get the 300.
You will be able to see running tracks
Mhm.
Yeah.
in wet mud, though, which is good. So
And you'll still see. I mean, provided it's not hard rain, it's not going to wash it all away. So that you'll
If
pick
you're
up
in
some.
cover, you're gonna. There's some of it's gonna be preserved, but
Yep.
yeah, I've shot deer in the rain before.
They
You've
move. They
shot
don't
deer
seem
in
to
the rain
care as
before.
much. And if it
It's
lets up-
November. If you can be in the woods, be in the woods.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the moral of the story.
so that's what we got to say about that.
Yeah.
Phone ringing.
So I'm
Chuck
waiting.
calling?
I'm waiting. Dad, let's go. You're watching. Let's get on the phone. Call in. You know the number. It's in the comments. I had it on the screen. I also put our hoodies up on the screen for a little bit. The phone line for again, if we have new listeners on the show, this is a live radio show. I think we're in a world of asynchronous communication now where people don't want to be talking.
Come BS with us.
So you can call in 262-757-4122. You can call into the show, and we got a little bit more time where we can putz around.
Shout out to anybody who's got one and was able to kill the
Yeah.
hard to kill deer. Our buddies at Ghost Bucks. Blake has killed 2 beautiful bucks. Bo's killed 2 beautiful bucks. His dad got a nice one in Illinois and Wisconsin. They've all doubled up already, those sons of bitches.
Yeah, they're having a
So
great
get ready
season.
for the Ghost Bucks YouTube channel to have just videos coming
Oh,
Maybe
there's
they
gonna be a
nonstop.
lot.
should invite me on one of their hunts next time. 'Cause
That'll
that could
throw a
be
monkey
fun.
wrench in the plan.
Yeah, let's see if they can. Like I've said this at some point. You can get me to kill a deer, then you're really worth your salt.
They might take you up on it.
Here's the challenge. It's been issued,
Yeah,
guys.
issued.
Yeah, you can kill a deer yourself all day long, but can you get me to kill one?
Right. That is challenging.
Yeah, it sure is. You know,
Joking. You've been doing awesome.
You've
the
been
last
doing
few
great,
years,
man.
trying hard. Here's the thing: the mental side is really tough, though, too. Like after
Mhm.
what happens where you don't recover one, that takes a big hit to your mental game. And maybe other people have different thought processes around it. Here's mine. My thought is, do you know how effing hard it was to like put myself in the right spot in public land? Do you know how hard it is for me to make a decision? You're talking about like ground scent and deer picking up on not like don't cross that deer trail, Eric. Don't do it. Well, I had trekked in knowing what I was trying to do with the wind, and oh, there's a stand. I've never seen that one there before. Oh, there's a stand. That's where I was gonna go. Maybe even that tree. Wow, I didn't know people were back here. So then I did have to backtrack. Like there was no more territory to go. I had to backtrack and think if I was gonna go deeper into the direction of the wind, which would have given up some, but I was like, fuck it.
Mhm.
We'll just go in a little bit
Mhm.
tighter and see what happens. Which we did kinda. So it obviously worked out to some degree, but my confidence level in me doing that again is now really low. And then you stack on I'm going to shoot one again and not fuck it up. I feel terrible about the fact that I injured an animal. That does not sit well with me at all.
No.
That's
I'm
the
not interested in doing that again. I need some time to process that.
This is like the exact conversation I had with my buddy Jerome, who just hit the biggest deer of his life on a permission property. A family friend that lets him hunt there, and he's been hunting there since I lived in Peshtigo. So it's probably been 7 years he's been hunting this property. And
Okay.
he said, Derek, I think I finally got Mike's property figured out. I figured out where these big ones are moving. And the other day I had an encounter with the biggest buck I've ever seen.
Okay.
Came in, and then, it's that little bit of force, that little bit of panic, that little bit of, oh my God, all these things that went into it, all this time
Right.
of scouting, all this, did I set up right? All that comes down, and it makes you try to make the most of that encounter. And like, that's where forcing it comes. And I went through a period for like
Okay.
7 or 8 years where when I had the chance, I forced it. Like, I was going to shoot, I was going to make it happen. And very rarely does forcing anything in the
Does
deer
not.
woods
No,
work
and
out
I would
well.
argue that maybe I
And I get where it's coming
forced mine,
from.
but then
I think you did, because when I asked you about the shot,
I was
were you
not-
settled? Were you on? You were like, no, not really. And I
not
was like,
not as
fuck.
perfect as I could have been.
But that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to take that shot.
Yeah.
It just
I felt-
it
but I had-
doesn't work out often.
What's crazy is I had a degree of confidence, and I was like, I know it's not, and I guess it has to be perfect, right? You have to hit, everything has to line up. But I felt a high enough degree of confidence I was going to get.
So
where
you
I was
got to
going.
try.
If I didn't have that degree of confidence, I wouldn't. I have not taken a lot of shots before. I've let off. I've not taken them. Like when I shot at the buck I missed last year, I had pulled back on him 6 times before I took the shot I took, because the shot I took was the one that needed to be taken.
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't see the branch or whatever the hell. Of course, but yeah, in the moment, like time stands still while also accelerating. The whole time warp situation gets pretty weird. You got voices in your head. Your muscles are tired from holding back for 2 minutes. Shit's getting all off the chain, man.
2 minutes and 36 seconds. This is a long time. I've
That
seen
bear persist has
That's
a
a
great
long
let
time.
off. Let me tell you.
That's a long time.
I
dude.
was sketched as shit that I was gonna like.
You
F
should
it all
feel
up.
really proud for holding your bow that
No
long.
kidding.
That's a
Good thing it
long
wasn't
time.
arm day the day before.
Yeah, holy
I'd been
shit.
trembling harder.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. I was like, I shot a buck, and then when I heard the crash, I was like, he might be down. I might have. And everyone was like, you killed him. That's a dead deer based on the arrow. And I was like, why? Then I was like really confident. Then I started to just go downhill. So
I don't understand how your arrow had to pass through the other side.
It must have. 'cause
There's
when we
no
look
way
at
it
that footage.
didn't.
We don't see that arrow sticking out of the deer.
The fletchings are in the deer.
At that point, it
It
had to have
has
gone
to
in
be
further.
sticking out the other side. Just came out in a fatty, like a weird
I bet you if we
spot.
went back and tried to trail where we now know he went, we'd probably find something.
Yeah, I think you would have found some blood or something. But I mean, we know it doesn't matter now because
Correct.
the drone would have, if he was dead, you would have found him.
Yeah.
Yeah, deer are
So,
tough to kill.
deer are hard to kill. My dad did not call in. I don't know what he's doing. He's not calling. He's like, no, I'm not.
Are you
gonna call
doing
in."
your gun season episode next week with
So
your buddies?
We have a guest on
Should we
Tuesday
talk about? Okay.
per normal scheduled time, and Holly's gonna kill me because we're gonna do a podcast on that Thursday night with the fellas. So y'all don't need to be here for that one. But Mike and Clayton and Joel just bought a new truck. New for him, a used truck, but he just got it. He's had the other truck. It was a 2005 Chevy Silverado. He's had it since about 2006.
Nice.
Yeah, 187,000 miles on it. He's got up for sale on Facebook and wants a old black crew cab Chevy Silverado with 187,000, $5,000. It's yours.
It's not that bad mileage.
He bought a
It'll go now.
2019 GMC.
Yeah, it'll go another 187,000 if you take care of it. Engine
Sure.
oil, anyway.
So he's coming.
Rust is a different story
Yeah,
here in
Rust is a different
Wisconsin.
story, let's
it
be
is-
honest.
It is. It's my dad. Here he is. Let me get the volume up because I'm gonna mess that up first. So hold on before I admit this crazy caller into the show.
I'm excited to hear the story.
So someone who the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but sometimes it can take a couple bounds. Dad, you're live on the show. You got a buck. You connected. You made it happen.
Yeah, fortunate.
Hey, congratulations, Chuck.
Congratulations, Chuck.
Good
I was
work.
able to hunt some good private property and hunted public before, and it's unfortunate, but things still have to go together. So,
You know it.
Oh yeah, I remember the buck you had nightmares about before
I
you finally
enjoy-
found it.
oh yeah, many years ago. Yep. Yeah, same. Talking about the rain. Yeah, that one. We've had bad memories. Hit at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's the biggest deer I ever shot at. Maybe the biggest deer I'd ever seen, and 2 hours later, after a shot, it starts raining and get on a trail right away, and yeah, whatever. That's old story. So, so, but so yeah, I don't know. Here I am.
Yeah,
So,
well,
Saturday morning was good for me. So
you had hunted.
I
what,
know I was kind of
handful of times you were out on that property.
hello. You
Yeah, and then you made it. You made it. He said, "I got the text. I shot a buck," and then not too long you recovered him.
Yeah, I know. I was sitting there kind of bored and didn't see much, and there's buck chasing a doe through, and then before that, I hadn't seen nothing really much at all. But actually nothing. So, and there's a buck chasing a doe like 30 yards west. We head north through the hardwoods, and right on the edge of the bottom in the hardwoods on an edge and on a point where they travel through. They have, typically have, and 5 minutes later, okay, now they're running south through the same area, and then it's all quiet and I don't see nothing. So I figured let's see what Eric's doing. Maybe he's hunting. He says, fortunately, he's not. And I don't know, all of a sudden, this lone buck, I think the same one as chasing, comes walking through, no doe in sight. And he's looking a little dejected, like, what the heck?
Just got rejected by his girlfriend, huh?
Maybe not. If a buck could look dejected by a doe, he was the one. And,
Kill me now.
I had seen a
That was
couple.
ugly Charlie.
I'll come into your shooting lane. Just put me out of my
I'd seen
misery.
a couple small, and I had videoed it from my phone. A couple smaller ones a few days earlier, little basket racks, whatever. And this one come walking in. It's like, okay, he's not really a wall hanger, but yeah, he's got my blood going on. That'll work.
Hell yeah.
Time off. And so, as he's walking right through my wheelhouse, 15 yards right in front of me, broadside, I cannot get the freaking release on a D-loop on the bowstring.
That's right.
I don't know what it is. My release is like 25 years old and seemed like it was working fine, but all of a sudden
It wouldn't
I
clamp.
had to use my fingers to pinch it closed. Yeah, I didn't want to clamp unless the trigger was pushed forward.
And it's 25 years old, so it's bigger than the
Like, what
D-loop
the-
almost.
Yeah. It's like trying to put two big thumbs into a little tight, thread and a needle or something. Yeah, I don't know. I need a new release. There's no doubt about it. But so he walks right through. He's like, oh, there goes my head. That was stupid. That's pretty much okayest moment there. Okay.
Been there, Chuck.
And then, I'm looking, but he kind of hangs up like 15 to 20 yards straight east of me. And the wind was perfect that morning. It was a southeast wind, and where it's sitting, that's why I chose that pre-hung stand or whatever. So, like I say, I'm very fortunate that hunt to public, but it's still just you got it. But so finally, I get the freaking release clamped into the D-loop, and he's still standing there. He's quartering away really drastically, almost straight away. But his front end was kind of turned to the left. I got the full draw. I got the pin on him, and the little voice in my head saying, "Shoot, shoot, shoot!" And
I oblige.
and so I did.
Smart man.
And I had a light and knock. I seen it heading right there, and I never see the arrows fit. I just never do. I don't know. Vision. All of a sudden, he does a mule kick and he busts off into the bottom in the thick stuff. Okay, well, that looked good. So I said, okay. I waited like 10, 15 minutes so the jitters kind of went away and get down and just kind of go look where he was standing when I shot at him. There's blood right there. Okay, well, that's a good sign. But I looking for my arrow on the other side, and I've not seen a lighted knock or anything. Nothing. I've seen an arrow. So I figure I look up ahead 5 yards, a little more blood. Just peek at that a little bit. Okay, maybe I should back out. I look, okay, there's a little more blood up ahead, another 5 yards. Take a look at that, and it's not a bloodbath, nothing like that. I don't see any bubbles or anything. And I think I saw blood again a few yards up. Just, okay, just take another little look. And I'm looking up ahead, looking for an arrow, and nothing. I can't see the damn arrow. It's where the hell? It must have ran off of the arrow. I don't know. I'm looking up ahead into the bottom, and then there's kind of a deadfall, and I see a lot of white behind it. So that's interesting. And I kind of ventured a few more steps at a time, and it's like, yeah, that's a down deer. We made it maybe 50 yards, probably not even, I don't think, from point of impact till
Nice.
walk up, and all of a sudden, I think I was texting you, Eric, and I think I texted you I hit one, and I'm not sure by the time I texted you the picture of the deer, it was, what was it, Eric, 20 minutes?
Yeah, you found it right away. It's not normally how it goes.
Heck yeah. Good work.
Yeah.
And what's your setup,
All
Dad?
of a sudden, a picture, there it is.
What arrows are you shooting? Because you switch it up.
It's an older 2008 Bear Truth bow. I think I bought that bow and I handed down to the Darton Viper at that time, and a Bear Truth was a one cam, one wheel bow and whatever. And so it's still what I have, but arrows were D6 XT arrows and a 2-blade Magnus Stinger 125 grain.
Nice.
That's a good head.
So I'm shooting kind of lower poundage now as I get older. And yeah, the 2 blades don't seem like they give you a good blood trail, but I got a pass through, and a couple of years ago I had a pass through and a real nice buck. So it's like, whatever, if it works, stick with it, I guess.
Did your arrow end up coming out of it, or did you find it inside of that buck?
I actually, when I gutted them out and dragging them back 20 yards or 20 feet at a time, taking a break, and move my gear up ahead, my bow and my little fanny pack and other stuff, and I got to think, okay, he didn't go far. The arrow's got to be this 50 yards there, somewhere in between there, and it's like, I'm not seeing a lighted knock anywhere. I don't know what happened with that, but I eventually did find the arrow, but it was on the same side as a hit. But I did notice as gutting him, I did get a pass through, but barely. I think it came out. So I don't know if an arrow came out and maybe he just kicked it when he's running, and it went off back to the side that I hit him on or something. I was kind of focusing more on the opposite shoulder where it would have exited, but it was on the side of the trail on the front shoulder where I hit him, maybe 3-4 yards off of that side when I actually did find it. So I'm thinking, that's kind of weird, but maybe it went through and he kicked it or something. I don't know. It wasn't stuck in the ground, not like that. It was just kind of laying on the ground.
Well, good job, Chuck. Congratulations.
Yeah,
that was a
man.
real nice buck. Good shooting.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, he's a decent buck. I mean, for the properties hunting, my brother and nephew, they pass on deer like that, but he got my heart going. So
that's all that matters.
Yeah,
yep.
you did good.
And so
share the screen. I don't know if it'll let me.
showed Eric, and the hit turned out to be really like perfect. It looked like a shot. So, and I'm not sure how that happened because, like I say, I got full draw and I barely. If he wouldn't have hung up there, he would have just been gone. And so that's the story.
No,
Cool.
That's it's good to get that story in after all the depressing shit.
That's good to end on a high note.
But that deer still hard to kill. I mean,
Yeah, I know, Eric. I've been there with the wounding deer.
Yeah.
God, I wounded so many. If you hunt long enough, it's going to happen. It's going to happen again. It's like once you touch it, release and the arrow is gone. It's all kind of out of your hands. So you try to do the best thing up to that point, and after that, it's like, so you try to take that extra second maybe to really make sure your shot's good. But boy, when you're a full draw and everything's there, it's like I said, that little voice in your head saying, shoot, shoot, shoot. And so it's really hard to take that extra second, half a second sometimes, because that's just how it is. It's hunting. So
Yeah.
at least for me, I don't know.
No,
Maybe other guys.
I think
Guys way better than me that are just.
there's lots of guys better than all of us on
Yep.
this call right now. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
we get our wins and it's all good. And I don't know. Thinking about it too, I think my sight
Yeah, no,
pin
so
may have been a little
I
too
was
far,
really
but-
happy when I found that deer. I was like, wow, okay, this is what is perfect as I could have hoped for.
Yeah.
Okay, now the work starts and looking at it, okay, and just look at it a little bit and thank the good Lord for the outcome. And I brought it over by Eric and we looked at it some more.
Had a beer.
I brought it back to my brother. So we looked at it there some more. It's like,
It's
Yeah, you
awesome.
gotta appreciate it when it
okay.
happens.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Yeah.
be another year before you get to
yep.
do that with your bow again. I mean, we'll see what happens in a couple weeks in the woods with the
Yep.
rifles, but that's a different kind of hunt altogether.
Yeah, it's kind of the meat, but meat's always good, but that's more of a meat hunt for me. But you never know what lies, So I'll let you guys go because I'm
All right, Chuck.
running.
Thanks for calling.
things to
Yeah,
say,
no,
so.
glad you called in, Dad. Glad we badgered
Thanks
you
for
into
sharing.
it.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy your show. Love hearing all you guys talking. Derek had a great story, and Greg too. He remembers every detail that's very interesting. So,
Thanks, Chuck.
okay, talk to you guys
All right,
later.
buddy.
All right, later. Good luck with gun season,
Yeah,
Chuck.
man. We'll see you.
Yeah, good luck to you guys too.
Thank you.
That's who I gave the nozzle to. Is my dad. He's
Awesome.
got a sight in his rifle.
Heck
I gave him
yeah.
Whitetail Country. So I'm like texting Matt. I'm like, hey, that new ammo's it's gonna get here before the gun opener, right? Because now I'm sighted in with that. I need
Yeah, we
that's
need
what I
it.
need.
We need it.
My dad will probably have some left. Hopefully, I don't need more than one bullet. But the only reason I'll need more than one bullet is for more than one deer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of shots, lots of kills. That's what I'm hoping for. What's these fruit flies in here? What are they?
I don't
There's
know.
a few.
There's
Fucking
a few.
man.
They're everywhere.
Jeez.
You got a banana down here?
I don't know what's going on. There's nothing down here.
Dane hid some fruit snacks somewhere.
Probably, man. My gosh. I think that's a wrap for the show. I mean, deer
Yeah.
hard to kill, guys. It's gals. That's how it goes sometimes. It's not
Pick a spot.
fortunate.
Yep. Pick a spot.
Pick a spot.
I think I was 5 yards off of my sight pin because I had it set
5
for
yards
20.
closer.
When he came in and the first shot I was gonna take, that was at 20. He probably got another 5 yards closer at 15. So that 5 yard discrepancy could have resulted in the higher shot than I was aiming for, potentially. Because I didn't feel great, but I felt good enough. And then it didn't do exactly what I maybe had anticipated. I looked at you can go look at the sight pin around, so it hasn't moved since then, and that's what it's probably at.
Mhm.
But so practice like you shoot. Practice for ways you don't shoot. Practice your weak side, your strong side. Your
Practice with your
gangster
broadheads.
shot.
And if they're
Practice.
off,
Not all your broadheads though, which I'm gonna call you on your shit.
Ooh, call.
I got
No,
it
here it
all
is,
taken
here it
care
is.
of now.
No,
so.
no. You're like Mr. Clark. You shot all your broadheads. You shouldn't have done that. You dulled them. So maybe I should have sharpened them.
You should have sharpened
But
them.
then also you're
either
telling
way,
Tyler, who also missed a deer,
Yes.
Yeah.
The,
another
the
deer
whole
miss,
crew has been releasing
Yeah.
arrows.
and
We've released arrows.
you're like, shoot every broadhead. I'm like, that son of a bitch told me not to shoot all my broadheads.
No, you need
you know?
to shoot them or have one practice head but shoot all your arrows. And I did
All
that.
your arrows, one broadhead,
Yeah,
so you don't dull them out.
Yep.
I'm just giving you shit.
that's all good. I still had a malfunction, and needless to say, it's been rectified.
I'm gonna shout out Calder because he did. I did see one back there that Calder found his first shed.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's
And
awesome.
I'm a shed hound. Calder, congrats on the shed, buddy. Send me a photo of that. I want to see the shed. I'm a visual learner. Send me the shed.
I'm a visual learner.
I love seeing
Oh,
sheds.
that's funny. Yeah. Well, you can still find them.
Yep,
Usually
they're
it's when
still
you're
out
not
there.
looking. is
Oh,
when
I
I
was
find
looking
them.
today. I went and grabbed my last 2 trail cameras from
Oh,
that area.
nice.
I shot
Okay.
my buck,
Yeah.
and I was hoping I'd have a picture of them, but one card I can't read on my laptop. I'm gonna have to read it on the desktop.
Darn
The
it.
other card didn't have them on there.
Hmm.
So
Well, shit. All right. Well,
All right.
time to get to producing here. So, by the way, we have a new show launching maybe this week, maybe next week. 2 new ones. Powderhorn podcast. We launching on network very soon. That's a firearm centric podcast. Anything from 6-gun to your grandpa's rifle to clay and everything in between. So stay tuned for that one. And then a Wild Strength with Whitney Trumbull is going to be launching soon too. But I have to get through an RSS feed migration, something I've only done a handful of times.
Wild Strength.
Yeah, really cool. She's friends with Zach Hansen with the OKS Trapper. So our network is going to grow by a couple more podcasters. You guys seen on the WhatsApp app Messenger. I finally got the Beer Camp hoodies here. We're waiting for one more. They're all independent hoodies is the brand, independent. There's a bone color. It's like a bit of an off white that we're waiting to get in before we print the last one, which is the High Life moon. We have a bow hunter or a hunter tethered to the moon like a tether. So that's the High Life hoodie. We got the Champagne of Deers, the Hams Beer Camp, and the Beer Camp Banquet. So those are all live. The flannel's live. I think that's about as much as we're doing for the rest of the year. And for the first 20 orders of any of the Beer Camp hoodies, you will get a matching sticker.
Cool.
There's 20 stickers for each hoodie. So the first 20 orders of each hoodie will also get a synonymous sticker.
Get your Deer Camp fleece, would you? Jeez,
Yeah.
oh man,
We're
those
selling
things
them
are
now.
sick.
We got a deal we're running right now. If you buy
They're amazing.
that and a hat, I'm not trying to rhyme, you get the hat for $10. It's basically
Cat
how
and
it
a
works.
hat?
So you can get
On a
hat
plane
for
or on a
$10
train?
when you pair it with the fleece. So you buy the fleece and you
In
get
a car or on
yeah,
a star?
there
It
you
won't
go.
do no harm. It'll keep you nice and warm.
There you go. Wow, it's
Yeah.
warm AF is what I said, but
Yeah, that's the description, literally.
it really is.
We're Dr. Seuss in it here.
So that's some of the happenings with the OKS Podcast Network and the OKS Hunter merch. And is there anything else? I owe you a Dropping Pins episode because I picked that up.
Yeah,
Gone.
sorry. Dropping pins. Turns out everyone I want to talk to is hunting. So
Yeah,
Mad.
figure.
Mad
Good to know.
it'll
Now
it'll
we
be
know.
back at some point.
Yeah, now we know.
Not my bad.
So there's that. And okay, well, we'll let you guys go. Have a good week.